It is a cold autumn evening. The military elite squadron called Bravo 6 has just completed its recon stage of the militarized criminal organization called the Maelstrom. The squad has 4 unique members, each with specific enhancements. The enhancements consist of cybernetic nature. It is a relatively new technology that only the military and the rich have access to. But lately, the enhancements has become target for organized crime. The squad's main target is the leader of the militarized group, called Royce. A dangerous individual who has gotten his hands on dangerous technology. Royce has stolen a prototype for a brain implant that makes him a cunning rival due to his improved brain functions. But the squadron has the tools for the job. Their enhancements allow for unprecedented coordination and combat ability. The outcome of this battle is up for fate to decide.
The scenario you just heard about is a potential future of 2055. Joining me, I got
Albin Nilsson
and Gabriel Engberg.
And me, your host, Viggo Strömwald Rubin. So, Albin, what scenario did we just hear about?
Well, the scenario I just read is a potential future in 2050 where the military utilizes implants in their soldiers for enhanced combat ability. And also the criminals manage to get their hands on some of the technology.
That was a disturbing scenario, Albin. So, Gabriel, do you think this is likely for the future?
Yes, I think this is a very plausible thing to happen since the US Army reports has already stated that this is something planned for 2050. An expert from DevCom, the Combat Capability Development Command, has planned that there's a possible future technologies that could be used to enhance soldiers on the battlefield. And they've stated that this would include enhanced limbs for increased strength and an eye that would provide infrared sight and also ultraviolet vision, and an audio device that provides ultra and subsonic hearing.
Well, that is very interesting. Albin, we heard about the criminal leader called Royce with the brain implant. Do you think this could be something an everyday human could have in 2050 or some specific rich persons and the military?
Well, we already have a tech company that tries to develop this technology called Neuralink, which is funded by Elon Musk. So in his hand, I think the company will really take off when the technology reaches the acquired amount for a brain implant. And I think Elon Musk, he has in the past tried to make things affordable for the general person. Like with Tesla, it is not very affordable, but compared to previous electric cars, it is. So I think a brain implant will likely be possible for the average person to acquire.
Well, that is interesting. But isn't there a small possibility that authorities or greater powers could exploit the brain implants and
Maybe
record innocent people what they are talking about?
I think this is a very highly possibility that this would happen if we had brain implants, since we can already see how it's implemented in the web today, that they track all of our search history, what we click on, what we look on. So if we ever had brain implants in the head, it would be surely if the authority had power, or let's say private companies like Facebook and Google they would probably have databases collecting, let's say, our discussions with private people, and maybe our favorite foods, what we like to do. Let's say you like to take a walk every morning, you might like get walking shoes or something like that. And I think it's a very actually scary thing to think about.
Yeah, you're giving authorities and other companies or greater powers a very big kind of control over the general people. Something like this will suppress our freedom in the future. But there isn't just the negative sides with the brain implant. It could actually help the human in their daily lives. It could improve brain function and store information for personal use.
Let's say insurance company, like they always ask you to have evidence on something that happened. And let's say you could record your private life, and then you could like give permission to share that video.
Yeah, let's say you were to be a victim of a crime, and today if you were to, let's say, be harassed by someone and you don't have any evidence because you couldn't record or something, but with the brain implant you could maybe technically record the situation and then win in court, for example. These implants we talk about seem to have a lot of negatives and positives. Are there any other cybernetics or enhancements that could benefit the average human?
Well, of course. Today, actually, there are implants that benefit people in other regions but the brain. People who have been forced to amputate maybe a leg or an arm in a car accident, they have already cybernetic, not implantments, but accessories. For example, people who have lost their arm. I think we've all seen the videos where they have a robotic arm that they stuck to their arm so they can grab things and sort of live on with their normal life. And then there's also leg amputees who have highly functional legs that in some cases can rival a biological leg.
And also I think that while we're looking at like electronic arms and stuff like that, we can also think about the pacemaker that keeps people alive these days. It's technically a cybernetic implant in a way that, since it's a electronic device that makes sure your heart beats in a certain rhythm. So yeah, I think there's possibilities for.
Could this technology be utilized by people who are not amputees or handicapped, a normal functioning human?
Well, of course, most people aren't ready to give up a leg or a limb because a simple cybernetic implantment. So most people, if they want improved body ability with a cybernetic, I think the most possible option would be exoskeleton. And these exoskeletons we have seen a lot of in sci-fi movies and novel fictions and stuff. But there are workable exoskeletons that exist in real life that makes you able to lift heavy weights and carry heavy equipment. So I think there are definitely options for people that aren't disabled with an amputated limb.
Could this technology improve work life and minimize injuries and maybe increase productions in, let's say, factories?
Yeah, I would think an exoskeleton would be perfect for actually let's say an iron factory. Like say they have a lot of like heavy equipment that needs lifting, and usually that includes crane these days. But if there's a possibility that we had an exoskeleton, let's say you could lift probably like a ton just by yourself, we would surely see a efficiency increase and probably a minimize in work injuries, since a exoskeleton would protect you from like back injuries, which usually like warehouse employees or workers get when they lift heavy stuff when they don't use their safety equipment, since it doesn't help really.
Yeah, so technically a human could lift very heavy objects that otherwise they wouldn't be able to do without the implants.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm pointing at, that this would be a very good and efficient thing to implement in factories.
So we talked about brain chips and brain implants. Is there a possibility that this could be hacked by criminals or, let's say, the government?
Well, of course, these implantments and cybernetics obviously involve a lot of electronics, and most electronic components can be susceptible to hacking. It may be really hard to pull off, but if, let's say, a soldier's brain chip gets hacked, the hacker could maybe fry it remotely and damage a large portion of our brain.
And also, I think if we would implement brain chip, there would be a possibility to have like an internet connection inside to that chip, so it's connected to the World Wide Web, and this would also increase the potential like hacking abilities.
This technology with the implants and genetics seems to be a lot of seriousness, but could this technology be used in a more relaxed and interactive way for, let's say, VR and AR? VR being virtual reality and AR being augmented reality, which is in heavy development today. Gabriel, you got an VR.
Yeah, I actually do indeed. It's a virtual reality headset that's made from Valve, who's kind of leading in the sector because they pushed up the standards on virtual reality. And my experience from it is that it's actually a very, how you could explain, like it's very real when you put it on and you get, when you play games and stuff like that. And also like you can do hangouts with people, and it's actually very real feeling. While you don't have like the senses you do in real life, it's still your eyes that tells you like what's happened and all that. But I think the development that's going on is actually going really fast. And while I think virtual reality will still be just for like recreational use and maybe like enjoyment and satisfaction from playing games and stuff, augmented reality is something I would believe that would be also implemented in education and stuff like that, because there's a Microsoft is working on a HoloLens 2, which seeing from their concept art, it's how a human looks at the muscles system of a human in their like with a pair of glasses over their head, and they can see it in real life, and they can scale it up and walk around it and look at it. And I would think this is something that could be implemented in either education or just working environments where they need to see stuff like how it looks like in real life and maybe analyze it.
Fascinating. All these technologies are interesting, and I hope to see them in the future. And a big thanks to my guests. This has been your host, Viggo Strömmar Rubin, and as always, subscribe to my OnlyFans, link in bio.